Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here, and it's time for another week, another photo critique of your one light photographs. I've mentioned in the past that one light is more than enough to create beautiful, elegant images, but it's all about the control and how you use that single light. And so that's what we're going to take a look at in this photo critique. And by the way, if you're new to studio lighting or you'd like to understand it better, be sure to check out my course, Master Studio Lighting, because I can guarantee you after this course, you're going to understand the ins and outs of working in this studio. So let's take a look at your one light photographs and see what's been done right and areas for improvement. Let's dive in. In this shot, you've done a really nice job at creating very flattering light to your subject, even though you're only using a single light source. I can tell that it is a large, soft light source, and looking at the catch lights, it looks round. So I'm going to guess it's either a large umbrella with diffusion. It could be a large octabox, but I'm going to guess it's a large umbrella with diffusion, mostly centered to the face. And so what's nice is that since it's at such a high angle, it's nicely carving out her cheekbones, which is giving some pretty flattering shape to her face. But you're also using a broad soft light, so it's not darkening underneath her chest or any other place in the frame. And it makes sense because this is a fun, playful, colorful image, so it shouldn't be too dark and dramatic. So you did a good job in selecting your light source and light placement. My critique is when I look at this image, I'm not quite sure what it's about. Now, obviously, you have something fun going on with the lips and the texture, and I like the idea of having that be reflected in the color of the shirt as well. But it makes me wonder, is the image about this color? Is it her favorite color? And so maybe you should also bring that in with the background color. And just having a tank top, it's not particularly fashion forward, and the lips are, so maybe you could find a different top, or maybe it's all about the lips, and so you should crop in. And furthermore, when I look at the hands, I appreciate that you have fingernails that reflect the color of the hair. I also like that they're done. A lot of times in beauty images, when you show the hands and the fingernails are awful, it just instantly ruins the shot. So I think the nails are quite nice. But the way that they're resting on the chest, I'm not sure what emotion that I'm supposed to feel. And because they're flat to the chest, they're actually quite large and grab a lot of my attention. So my thought process would be this. Ask yourself, what's most important in the image? What's the photograph about? What am I supposed to have my attention drawn to? Because right now, I look to her eyes, to her lips, to the shirt, to the nails, and to the hair. So which of these should I really be paying attention to? Can you simplify it, or can you direct the eye? But the lighting is beautiful, flattering, and great mood for what you're trying to achieve. Next up, for this shot, I usually don't like selective color. Usually I really dislike selective color, but here I think it can work. And I think it's because it's such a different texture and color than the rest of the shot. Now, I actually made a change to this image. When I got it, it was something like this, okay? So the photograph is a bit flat. If you look at a histogram, it doesn't really have a white point. And so what I did is I went in and I increased the contrast, and I really brightened up the white so I would have a white point. And I think that gives the type of contrast you need to make the selective color shot work. And when you increase contrast, you increase saturation, so you actually see the honey pop a bit. The color actually becomes a bit more saturated. Now, a couple of thoughts here. You're using a large soft light source to the left-hand side. I think that works. I think it's flattering. It's got a kind of a high fashion feel to it. So the light, I don't have a problem. I can see some wrinkles in the background that probably shouldn't be there. I'm not sure if you could remove them in Photoshop or maybe kick the background out of focus just a little bit more. But for this photo, it's clearly about the texture, and it's clearly about what's on her hands. And I think the earrings don't necessarily add anything. I also think that the bottom of the frame isn't particularly interesting when all the interest is here. So I would actually take this shot and I would crop it in. Now, how close you crop, it really depends. I mean, honestly, you could crop way, way in. Something like this. Let's see. Yeah, but I do like this little drizzle of it, so I'm not quite sure. But let me just overcrop for now. Maybe something in here. And I think without the earrings, it becomes a little bit more clean and all about the texture. I also personally would not have included the texture on the tip of the nose. I think I get a bit confused about the message. Is it supposed to be cutesy with it on the nose? But this is meant to be sexy. I'm not quite sure. So I would remove that, and you can Photoshop it. So I would crop in, increase the contrast, but I would leave your light the same. And I think that it's really doing a nice job creating the beautiful highlights on the honey. If you didn't have a large light source, if you're using, let's say, a bare bulb, you wouldn't get these nice highlights. You wouldn't have the depth that you're getting here. So I think you really chose the correct single light. All right, next up. The reason that I chose this shot in this image is because the photographer actually had several shots that they submitted. And two of them, there are another two images of this gentleman, they were perfection. They were perfectly lit. And the reason I chose this one to critique is because since the other ones were perfect, this is the only one that I really saw something I would improve. Now, what I try to do when I'm on location, or one of the things I try to do, is if the shot's meant to look natural, I try to mimic the direction of light. So you can see here that there's sun or overhead light coming from the top right. I often would put a light source in that same direction, but it'd be broader and softer. So what it would do is it would take the harder light and it would allow me to soften it, give it a little bit more control, contrast, directionality. But in this case, the subject is actually turned away from that light source. And so the photographer used a light, their single light on the left-hand side to fill in the shadows. That's doable. It's not wrong. And it actually works in this shot. My critique is the highlight on the nose. The highlight on the nose makes it a little bit too obvious that a strobe has been introduced. It makes it obvious that you have conflicting directions of light. So if his chin was a little bit lower or turned to the side or just something to avoid that highlight, then I would say it's spot on. And I can tell that you really know what you're doing because those other two shots were perfectly lit. Beautiful. Next up, I am a sucker for images like this because it's red and it's saturated and there's a lot of detail. And so I love shots like this. I think that this image didn't need more than one light. I think one light is actually perfect to achieve what you did here. And people often struggle when you lay a subject down figuring out where to put the light. Sometimes they just put it off to the side. But when you have a subject laying on their back, you still want to have the light in a position to act as if it's coming from the top down. Because when you have it, and I'm talking about above their head, the reason being is by placing it at that position, that's how you carve out the cheekbones and the jawline. If I just have it off to the side, it's not as flattering to the shape of the face. So really well done on your light choice. There's a couple things I would change. I do see a weird blue cast in the hair here. I'm not sure why. I would correct that. And then as I look at the shot, I'm asking myself what you're trying to say. The makeup is beautiful. The color is beautiful. I love the hair, the flowers in the hair. The eyes closed start to maybe give me the feeling of death, and I wouldn't feel that way except for the fact that she has these flowers in her hands. That makes me feel like maybe she's laying there dead. So what I would do is I would either get rid of these flowers or I would make them match the rest. The fact that they're pinks and greens, it draws too much attention. It doesn't fit your story. So I would change that out, but you can fix it a little bit in post. What I did is I made the flowers look a lot more red. In the first shot, what I did is I went in, I shifted the hue, or in the first adjustment layer, and in the second adjustment layer, I actually added a selective color, and then I darkened them down a bit. I don't think this is perfect. I think it would be ideal if you had flowers that matched the others a little bit more, but I think it draws my attention less, and it looks a little bit less death-like to me. So I would just make tweaks on that small detail, and everything else I think looks great. Next up, for this single light portrait, I think you did a really nice job choosing a flattering light source and feathering the light in the way that it also illuminated the background. So the soft light source is over here on the left-hand side. You can tell by the shadows as well as the catch lights in the eyes. Now, what often happens is that the light source is pointed in a way that it lights the top left-hand corner of the frame if it's on the left-hand side. And so what that does is it drags the eye to the top left-hand corner. But the photographer here did not do that. By feathering the light or pointing it across the frame more, you actually put a shadow up here, which I think is really, really nice. Brings the attention back to our subject, and it allows the light to hit the background on the right-hand side, which is nice because on the shadow side of the face, there is a little bit of separation. I also think that there is a reflector of some sort to the right-hand side, which has brought some detail back to the shadows. So I like all of that. But as I look at this shot, I don't think that color is necessarily adding anything, especially since this t-shirt was chosen just because it's not adding anything color-wise. If maybe the shirt was matching the background or contrasting the background, maybe it would be on purpose. But I actually think color detracts from the mood. It's not adding anything. So what I've done is I've added a black and white adjustment layer, and then I've increased the contrast. And I increased the contrast heavily. And you might think this is a little bit strong. It's fine. You could always, back off the contrast a bit. But I think what it does is it brings the attention back to his face and back to this beautiful expression. Now, when I did this, I noticed and thought that the bicep in the back here was a little bit too bright. So I actually went and toned that down. So here's the before and here's the after. I think that's a little bit more effective for me as a portrait, and it allows me to connect more with the emotions of the subject. Next up, I like the light that was chosen for this boy. It's a little bit punchier. It's got a little bit more contrast. It looks a little bit edgier. I really like that. So the light looks nice. No complaints about that. My complaint is on the background. It's not that it's a bad background, but I just keep looking at it over and over and over again. And the reason why is everything being in black and white and similar tonalities of the background to the shirt. Like they're the same brightness. I just don't know where to look. And so I think one thing you could have done is maybe feathered your light away from the background. I'm not sure if the main light source, your one light, is hitting the background or if that's natural light. If it were the strobe or speed light hitting the background, maybe feather it away so it doesn't hit it and get a little bit darker. Or if it is just the ambient light, if you know how to balance the constant light, the ambient light, and a strobe, I'd underexpose the background just a bit. Or you could shoot a little bit of a wider aperture. Any of these things I think would help. I particularly find this board at the top of the frame that's really light particularly distracting. So what I did is I darkened down the edges just a little bit and then brightened up his face just a little. I was trying to bring the eye back into the subject. And I'm not sure that what I did was really a fix per se. I just felt like my eye was getting pulled around here. But I think it would be something you would have to do in camera. I don't think that it's bad like this. I do just think I end up looking at the corners probably just a little bit too much. Okay. For this photo, I think it is a very nice, soft light source to the left-hand side. I can tell by the catch lights in the eyes. And then there's also obviously a white bounce card on the right-hand side filling in the shadows. I think maybe your main light source could have been a little bit higher. That catch light looks a little bit low. Maybe I would have scooted the glasses up just a tiny bit so they weren't intersecting the iris. But by using a single light source on a dark background, you did a nice job to make sure that the shadow side of the body didn't blend into the background. That can happen really, really easily. So you did a good job controlling it so that it didn't lose that detail. I think the only critique that I would give, I think you did change the background a bit, because I can tell maybe here, I think, that there's a little bit of bleed of color or something. I can't quite tell at this resolution, to be honest, but that was a little bit of a hint. But I think this hand looks a little bit large. I maybe would have tucked it under the arm or found a way to put it to the side, because right now when it cuts across, it becomes closest to camera, which therefore makes it look larger. So if I'm being nitpicky, that's the only thing that perhaps could be improved. But your light choice, your storytelling element was really fun. I like the overall hues and color choices that you made. So the shot's successful. Thanks again, everyone, for joining me, and I hope that you've learned something useful from this photo critique. Sometimes it's the tiniest details, the littlest adjustments that can make the biggest difference, especially when you're only working with one studio strobe. If you'd like to see more of these photo critiques, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you then.